Hi, this is Professor Kathleen Kyler, and I'm going to talk to you about some of the very first things you need to learn in English 1301. So we're going to look at the rhetorical situation, what that is, and how that affects essay writing. We're going to look at what is an essay, and we're going to look at something very, very important to essay, the thing that all essays focus around, and that is the thesis statement, your arguable claim, what you're trying to accomplish. Okay, so let's get going. So one of the first things you want to think about when you're going to be writing an essay, making a speech, even writing an email or talking to someone that you need to work with, you want to think about who's your audience and what is your purpose. Having a specific audience in mind is going to help you so much, and having a specific purpose. For example, if you're planning a trip, let's say just to Corpus Christi, Texas, and you're going to be driving down, you have to get gas, you have to put some expenses in, you have to set aside time to go. It's going to be much more worth your while if you know where you're going and why you're going there. So you can plan how much gas you need, you're going to get more accomplished, you're going to be, mindful of your time and the time of people with you. Are you going to go and, have a doctor's appointment? Are you going to go and take a flight out from the airport? Are you going to go and just hang out at the mall and stop by somewhere and get something to eat? So, what is your audience? What is your purpose? What do you have to do to get there, right? So, knowing who your audience is and what your purpose is going to help you. First of all, you have to realize that you have something important to say, that you can meet a need, and you can make your audience see that it's worth their while through effective rhetoric. Okay, so who are you writing to? What are their needs? And what is their attitude toward the topic? So consider these situations. Let's say that this is a situation. You need money to renovate the daycare you own. Okay, so you could go online and say, hey, I need money, and hope people are kind-hearted and donate, which they may. Or you could think about, who can I go to who is interested in helping me renovate this daycare? What groups are offering grant money, right? And how can I make this worth their while? How can I say, if you do this thing, your community will be served. If you do this thing, your family will be better taken care of. If you do this thing, your children will be safe. How do you make that worth your while, and who is it that you need to go to get that accomplished? Students are having trouble finding their way around campus. Okay, so let's say we need to go to the authorities, the people in charge, administration at the college, and we need to make it, them aware of the situation and then tell them how is it going to help them to, maybe you have a solution in mind. Let's say you think they should add more signs around campus to help people find their way around. Okay, well then you might say, okay, they'll say you need to go to marketing, and maybe marketing can help you. Or if you want to get even more expensive signage, you may need to get someone with more, you may be having to bring your question up to higher, maybe to student services, and tell them, I see this concern, who can I talk to? And they'll say, well, why do you want these signs? And you'll say, well, it's going to help the college. The college is interested in student success. More students will be successful if they can find their way around, and this will make the college not only look better, but also will make the college have more students coming, right? So let's say you're an expert in first aid and few people in your town know first aid, and you're like, wow, I need to tell people about first aid. What do you need to do? Who can help you? You need to maybe start a class, or you can start, creating videos. You can do something. What can you do, and who can help you make it happen? Let's say people are upset by a new city mandate. Well, we can all sit around and grumble, or we can find out, like, who, right, we need to address about this. Do we need to talk to the city? Do we need to talk to voters? Do we need to talk to a council? Who do we need to talk to? Do we need to talk to the newspaper and get the word out? And how can I make the other people see that the people that like this mandate, how can I convince them of the things that may not be so good. I can sit there and yell at them and tell them they're wrong, and I'm not going to get anywhere. If you tell someone they're wrong, they're stupid, and they don't matter, no, they're going to stop listening to you. You're not going to get something accomplished. But if you can convince them, here are some facts, here is how it's hurting people, here are some examples of it hurting people, and you're upfront and you're open to conversation, like the other, let's listen to the other side, let's weigh it, let's come to a compromise, you're going to get much further. Okay? So as a writer, you're going to have two roles. One is going to be the writer you, and the other one is going to be the reader you. And you will be reaching out to other readers, and you'll be reading yourself to find out information. So what are the roles of a writer and a reader? As a writer, your job is to explain something. I want to tell you something was one of the most shocking things I realized one day is that people cannot read my mind. They're not going to understand why I feel the way I do or what something means unless I explain it to them. Okay? We also need to read the arguments. We need to see what other people think, right? We need to go away. So you're going to look for very specific, like who in this field that I am in, who in this area, who related to this topic, who are the people that we can trust, who do I need to listen to, what are the two sides or three sides or four sides being presented, and how do I fit those in with my perspective? How do I respond to each of them and make sure that, I've taken those into consideration? Based on what you read, all the facts that you are provided, all the facts you find by inquiry and searching out, you're going to form your own opinion and your own perspective, okay? And you're going to weigh everything. Okay, so you look at things and say, does this make sense? Do they have evidence? Does the evidence make sense? Is it presented from a credible point of view? Have they done their research? Okay, let me see. That makes sense. That makes sense. I agree partly with that, but then, oh, wait, I don't agree with you. Let me see if I can find evidence, that would explain to you why I disagree with you. Okay? So once you form your own opinion, you have a perspective, you have something to say about one topic, then you're going to start brainstorming and thinking about how you're going to form your argument. You may need to do some research. You may need to do some observation. You may need to do interviews with somebody and ask some questions. You'll get some evidence. Okay? And remember, your job is not to always prove that you have the one true answer. That's not what college writing is about. Your job is to convince other people that you have a valid point. Your point deserves their consideration. Okay? So get your evidence. Then we get to the part where we're pre-writing and free writing, where we're just jotting down all of our ideas and not losing a single one of those good ideas. Because pre-writing and free writing, especially free writing, the diagramming, we'll talk about more of those, is where you're gonna gather all of your ideas and get them organized. Then you write a rough draft, and you're gonna organize your paper, and then you're gonna edit and revise, because no essay, no first draft is perfect. No first draft is ready. You're gonna think it's ready because you got it down. Whoo, I'm done. Whoo. And then you're going to go back and look at it. Someone else is going to look at it and say, oh, wait, here's where you can make it better. And you always want to get feedback and you want to revise again. So then we're going to be following the writing process, the brainstorming, the rough drafting, the organizing, the editing, revising, feedback, and then revise. Make it better, make it stronger, make it clean, and say what you're wanting it to say. Now, as a reader, your job, it looks like there's fewer things to do, but these are actually really strong things that you need to do. These are things that, take time. So as a reader, you actually need to read, and you need to question what you read. So instead of being a passive reader where you just let the words kind of flow by like clouds in the sky, you might want to stop and question and say, do I agree with this? How does this relate to me? What is it I need to know here? What do these words mean? Why are they in this order? Analyze. That means, when you analyze, you're examining all the parts to understand the whole thing. And from it, learn, right? You learn something new, like new words, you learn new ideas, you learn a new perspective, you learn why or why not you agree with something. You learn something about yourself and evaluate the information. In other words, evaluating means you're passing a judgment based on specific criteria. Not just I don't like you, but because, oh, they do not have a strong thesis statement, they do not have good evidence, they have not organized their essay correctly. That makes it less easy to understand, so therefore this essay needs to be revised, right? So that's an evaluation, that's forming an opinion about it. And then you're going to relate, and again, form an opinion. Okay? So let's revisit the definition of an essay. An essay is the exploration of a single, focused topic from a specific perspective with a specific slant. So in other words, you've picked something, not just something broad, like I'm going to talk about technology. Well, technology, everybody could talk about technology. My phone isn't working today. My television is on. My computer, I work on my computer at work. I use, technology all the time. I could talk about the technology that runs my car. What do we want to talk about? So pick something very specific, which could be using a specific app to help you study, right? And then you want a specific perspective, which means maybe you tried this specific app and it didn't help you very much. So you want to explain to people why there's a problem with the app. And a specific slant, which means you're going to present it your way in a way that's interesting to someone else. So you may present that, okay, this app isn't working very well for me. Here's why we can change it. Or here's why I went in and created my own app, right? There's my own slant there. And then you can use that situation to actually help you with promoting something that you were able to do, right? Provide a reason for them to listen to you about your topic, your idea. So, and when your essay, you're going to organize it. The essay is going to be organized in this order. So you have an introduction. The introduction where you connect with your reader, you introduce your topic, the context, whatever background information they need. I use the word roadmap. You provide a roadmap, which means you're giving them a little summary, kind of like the itinerary of the essay. What are the main ideas that they're going to see? You present those to them up front. There's no surprise endings in an essay. And then you're going to close with your thesis statement. So that first paragraph, the introduction paragraph, the last sentence is going to be the arguable claim for your essay. Okay? And then in the middle, so you've presented, here's what we're going to talk about, here's my argument. Then in the body, you're going to break down that argument into the main components and provide details and support that all focus back on that thesis statement. So you may say, blueberry muffins from Walmart are the best, are the best breakfast muffin. Okay, there's my point. Okay, then I might break it down to what is it about the muffins that make them really good. Okay, so it could be they're fresh. That's one of my main points. The next thing is that they have lots of blueberries. And the next thing will be that they're sweet and delicious. Okay, so three reasons why I like those muffins. Okay, and then inside of that, you're going to provide the details, the examples, the things that are going to convince them that you know what you're talking about. Your conclusion is going to tie everything together. That's where you're going to reflect on the points made. So kind of like the introduction, you provide a roadmap. In the conclusion, you go back and revisit that roadmap, but now in a new light. Right now, you know Okay, this now, therefore, we can draw these conclusions because we have that evidence, and that evidence. We draw it all together, and by looking and examining the evidence presented, we can reaffirm the thesis statement and reconnect. The reason why we can reaffirm the thesis statement is because before we even wrote this essay, we did our research, we knew what we were going to say, and we knew that it was all going to make sense when we were done. Because otherwise, if you're just making it up as you go along, you may come to the point where you're like, wow, actually, that thesis statement doesn't make sense. And then you need to revise the essay. So I mentioned thesis statement. The thesis statement is the arguable claim for your essay. Okay? It is most usually going to be just one sentence, and in this class, most definitely is going to be one sentence. That sentence usually occurs at the end of the introduction. And let me tell you why that is. It's because you don't throw an argument in someone's face. Because if you did, they need to be receptive. They need to be prepared for it. It's kind of like if you give someone bad news right the minute you see them. Hi, how you are? By the way, someone you passed away. That's not a really effective way to communicate that information. Or even, hi, you got a raise. Okay, I'm going, what, how, who, what, where did that come from? So let's give them some context. Let's bring them in. Let's let them connect with us before. Like they never saw me before. I'm telling them they had a raise. Why should they trust me? Okay, so you want to bring them in, establish the context. Why are we writing about it? And then at the end, you bring in, by the way, right? Now that you know all this, this, and this, here's the thesis statement. The thesis statement also is going to contain your main point, and so the main topic you're writing about, and the point you are making about that topic. So maybe my topic are the blueberry muffins from Walmart, and the point I'm making is that more people should try these blueberry muffins for breakfast. Okay? So in order for your essay to be strong, you need to have a strong core, and that core is your strong thesis statement. So we have this criteria we can use to evaluate whether we have a strong thesis statement or not. So yes, this is what you want it to be. A strong thesis statement is arguable. In other words, there is more than one perspective out there, and we can present evidence to support why someone should consider our perspective, why our perspective is valid. It should be focused. Remember, an essay is over one topic. Well, same thing with a thesis statement. Very specific to that specific audience and purpose. And it's reader focused. So you want it to be something that's going to help a specific audience with a specific need in order for it to be effective. And it needs to be supportable. So if you cannot support your argument, then there's no reason to present it, right? Your thesis statement needs to be something that you can support. I can never make the claim that there will be no more automobile accidents if we just outlaw cell phones. Because there are many, many other ways where someone can have an automobile accident, other than having a cell phone, right? So other ways people can be distracted, other things that can go wrong with the car. So I could never really support that. I could never provide enough evidence to support that. So what should a thesis statement not be? A thesis statement should not be a statement of fact. Okay? So if it's a statement of fact, I don't need to support it. It needs to be more based on your perspective and opinion. It should not be too broad. If it's too broad, you're covering too much territory, you're not going to be able to make a focused argument on your topic. You're going to lose your audience. It's going to be like someone that's just droning on and on and on and on, and nobody's listening anymore, right? Everybody stops listening. And it should not be writer focused. So if I'm just sitting here talking about myself all day, it may be interesting to some people, but my purpose is going to be missed. I'm trying to meet a specific need. I'm trying to show how my audience that this is relevant to them. They're going to stop listening to me. And it should not be a question. A question is not presenting your perspective, right? A question is asking other people for their perspective. So you want to be able to present your claim, which is a claim, you're actually making a claim, right, in the form of a statement. It should not be an announcement. An announcement is another form of a statement of fact. This essay will convey blah, blah, blah. In this essay, I will explore. This essay covers this information. Don't announce it. Never announce anything in your essay, whether it's your thesis statement or anywhere else. And now I'm going to tell you about blah, blah, blah. That's probably good in a speech. I'd have to ask a speech professor about that. Sometimes when you're doing a lesson, I'll say, okay, now we're going to talk about this. But an essay is more about showing than telling. Okay? And it should not be overly opinion. By that I mean you should convey the idea that you've considered other perspectives. You should convey that you have an open mind in that you looked at things fairly, and that by looking at all of this fairly, you're able to present this perspective. So here's some tips to making a strong thesis statement and making sure it's arguable. So first of all, think of who your audience is. Use words like could, can, should, need to, must, because. And then make sure that it fits the criteria that I listed of what a thesis statement should be. Okay? So think of who your audience is. Let's say we're talking about the blueberry muffins again. Who can benefit from that information that I discovered the most delicious blueberry muffins at Walmart? Probably people that want to have a nice quick breakfast. Who wants to have a nice quick breakfast? Probably people that are working in the morning or students who are going to school. Which one do I want to focus on? Who do I want to help the most? Let's focus on students that need to get up and get a quick breakfast and go to school. All right, so students who are in a hurry should try blueberry muffins from Walmart in order to have a healthy, happy day. Okay? There I have a nice thesis statement. So let's look at a few and evaluate and revise together. So let's say some people don't believe in animal rights. Now let's say that somebody presented that as a thesis statement. So first of all, we can see it's a statement of fact. Yeah, some people don't believe in animal rights. Some people don't agree with it. Some people don't, right? So that's a statement of fact. Yep, it happens. It's not arguable because we're not telling them what they should, could, can, might do about it. It's just a statement. So anytime you say it's a statement of fact, you automatically can say it's not arguable. And it's not reader focused. I'm not trying to meet a specific audience's needs. I'm just putting the information out there, wham, right? And it's too broad. We have no direction. We're not going anywhere there. So it's not, we can make that conclusion, draw that conclusion that it's not a strong thesis statement based on our evaluation, right? So we have more no's there than we have yeses. So we can go to revision, think about who my audience could be. Let's say I want to reach people who do like animals, and I want to say what they can do to help with animal rights. So people who like animals can better help animals by volunteering at their local animal shelters. Now I'm getting to the point of being able to accomplish something, right? Now we're going somewhere. Okay, so let's look at the next one. The environment must be kept wild. Okay, so we have the word must be. We're making an argument. And we feel like the argument, we have an opinion, it must be kept wild. And we're looking at the environment as a whole. It's a very big, broad concept about the environment. And we don't know who the audience is, but yes, it's arguable. Very broad, so it's a little too broad because we're not going to get anything accomplished by just, throwing that big, broad statement out there. And it may be overly opinionated. Must be kept wild. I'm not considering, right? it's almost like I'm not open anymore to any other perspective. So revise, let's say who can do anything about this? Well, let's say lawmakers should write legislation that prohibits building in protected parts of the Midwest. Okay, so now we're getting closer to being able to accomplish something. I know who I need to reach. I need to reach those lawmakers. I'm going to try to convince them to what kind of legislation they need to write, and I'm looking at a very specific part of the environment, something specific they can do. Nothing good comes from research into cloning. Okay, so that's again overly opinion. When you say nothing good can come from something, you've already made up your mind, and it's not arguable because whenever you use what they call essentialisms, like nothing, no one, everyone, everybody, all the time, you're already making yourself into someone who's not credible because there's always exceptions. Okay, if you say everyone, that means you haven't really looked at all of the research. You haven't considered, because you can't go to every single person who ever lived or ever will live and find out if they do or don't. You can't go to every single situation from research into cloning and say nothing good came out of it. And no one's going to listen to you because you've already made up your mind based on, not enough sample size. So it's overly opinionated, too broad, and it's not reader focused. So maybe I have concerns about cloning research. Let's see who can do something about it. I'm worried about how it's going to impact people. So let me go to the human rights activists. That's my specific audience. I need to talk to them and convince human rights activists what they can do to stop this. Okay? So should petition their local politicians to insist on, maybe I can't insist on all research into cloning being done away with for all, but I can at least ask them to create restrictions into cloning research. We need to have like some parameters in place, okay? There's a stronger thesis statement at the end there. Okay, here's one. My family owns a beach house. Well, that's really cute. I'm really happy for you, right? That makes me happy that your family owns a beach house. What do you want me to do with it? What do you want me to say? Yay for you? Right, we're not accomplishing anything by making that statement, and it's writer focused. So, statement of fact, yes, they do. I'm glad to hear it, but there's nothing else for me to say. It's not arguable because there's nothing to argue. Yep, I'm not going to say no, you don't. Right? I'm not going to say can't have another opinion about it. So it's not that, and not audience focused. It's writer focused. Now let's look at the next one. The city needs to reinforce the mask mandate, and parents need to have more oversight over their children's education. Whew, that's a lot to accomplish. We want to be focused, right? We got two things going on here. We want to be focused on just one of those and take up them one at a time. So first let's pick one, and then later on we'll write another essay about the others. So they're arguable. We have a specific audience, we have a specific thing, we have a specific need, but we have two of them. Let's focus on one at a time. Then everyone who wears a mask into a store is a coward. So I want you to think about that one, look at the criteria, and determine whether or not you think that's a strong thesis statement or how it does not meet that criteria. And how could you revise that? Okay, here are a few more I want you to evaluate and revise. So Walmart is one of the most popular places in Beeville. Again, go back to the yeses and the nos and determine which ones, what are the things that it's doing? What are the yeses? What are the nos? Does it need to be revised? How can I revise it if I do? The next one, in this essay, I will describe my favorite place, my reading nook. What are the best places to eat in Beeville, and why should we support them? So once you know how to evaluate a thesis statement, to write a strong thesis statement, then you are ready to build your essay around it and to be focused and get across all those wonderful ideas that you have in your mind that you need to convey, that you need to communicate to other people.